Howdy, howdy out there, weirdos. This is Cbass signing on again. Very happy to have you all coming to join me again to work on painting up some Malifaux stuff. Although today we're going to be continuing with Samantha Thrace, our model from the other side, our new guild champion. So just kind of join me. We'll pick up where we left off last time. And I do mean we'll pick off exactly where we left off last time. I have not been able to do any other work on Thrace since then. So we'll be picking up right where we left off and we'll get to work on her. So sit back, grab some snacks. Hello, Doug. I see you in the chat there. And yeah, just relax and we'll chat a little bit and get some paint slung on Samantha Thrace. All right. So last thing we did on Samantha Thrace, we were working on getting her coat painted. So the coat was originally painted using the airbrush based with some Avejo game color gory red. After which I used a Reaper Master Series paint, I believe Eldritch Purple, to paint in some shadows. And then we spent a little time rebuilding, well, not really rebuilding, but applying a new base layer with some Citadel Mephiston red. So, yeah, bit of a glare there, but that works. All right. So with that, I think we're ready to move up to a little more on highlighting the red. So I'm going to take some of that Mephiston red, get it on my wet palette, and we're going to mix this, just kind of eyeballing it, but more of a rough, like 2 parts Mephiston red mixture to our second color we're going to use, which is going to be bloody red. Hey, Third Floor Wars, what's up? Hey, thank you very much. Yeah. If you watch the earlier streams I did, you'll notice there's a definite upgrade on the camera right now. So yeah, I was able to invest in a different camera. So hopefully we'll get some better video quality. And already I'm pretty happy with it. So either way, good to see you around Third Floor Wars. I'm going to assume I'm talking to Craig here, but you know, I assume nothing. So thanks for joining me, and we're going to get busy getting some red on Samantha Thrace. All right, so just kind of eyeballing that there. All right, so I'm going to pull out my my size 1 round. This is the Phalanx by Game Envy. Let's see, what did I end up with? Oh, camera-wise? So camera-wise, I ended up going for a Canon EOS M200. So I ended up going with that mainly because it's definitely, I would say it's definitely more of a budget choice among some of the higher-end cameras. I mean, it's not, you know, it's not cheap by any means of the imagination. But you know, I think it pretty much had what I wanted. It pretty much has a clean HDMI output. It's pretty good, has pretty good autofocus. So the autofocus is rather nice. And I think for what I'm doing, which is basically painting miniatures, I think it's got some pretty good specs. So we'll see how it pans out. To be perfectly honest, while I have done some tests with it, I have not necessarily run it for an entire stream. So we'll see how it holds up. Hey, Fat Crow, thanks for joining the chat. Hope you're doing all right in your neck of the woods. So right now we're just let's see, Guslado, enjoy my Canon Vixia. Yeah, I remember we talked about this on your stream actually, Doug, kind of about the Vixia, and I was kind of looking into it. Quick question: I think is that line discontinued? Because I have the feeling it might be discontinued, which is why I feel like if you look for it online, it tends to be quite pricey. So I believe I can't really find any like new sellers selling it. It's usually always secondhand. So yeah, exactly. So yeah, so I think they discontinued that. Hence when I was doing my research, I was kind of looking into a bunch of different cameras. I did look into that one, but ended up figuring out that no, this is way out of my price range at this point. A lot of other like kind of high-end streaming cameras also that did kind of get discontinued. I know Sony had one. I forget the model number that recently got pretty much discontinued. Pretty expensive now. They do have a new model that came out to replace it, but that is nowhere near my price range. Especially since I did need to pick up a couple accessories, namely just making sure I had a good dummy battery and of course a good HD card, so I can actually get the HDMI output in there. Hey, Jay Mori, how are you doing? We are. Thank you. Glad you could join us. I realize it can kind of be a lot just kind of marathoning some of these streams sometimes. So I saw you were on Doug's stream earlier in the chat. So I appreciate you sticking around and chilling out. So, since I've pretty much been lurking all day, lurking and working, feel free to let me know what projects you guys are working on, if you got any down the pipe. Oh, hey, you answered it for me. Worked on Lucky Emissary. Ooh, oh man, the Lucky Emissary. That is a model that I've not worked on. It's a very intimidating model, I will say. That's definitely one that I want to approach with some sub-assemblies, but I'm also not in a rush to get that one because I do have a bit of a proxy that I run for it. Oh, okay. So he's one of so Jay, you're one of the locals in the Texas meta. Yeah, we got a lot of Texans in the chat today. There are at least 3 that I know of. All right, let's see. So as usual, just kind of using side of the brush, kind of trying to get on top of a lot of these areas, just doing some layering. I finally got used to this brush, namely just because I, had to realize that the sizes they used, Game Envy used on these brushes are not really like what I would think of for like a standard artist's round brush. They're much more designed for miniatures in mind. So the size 1 is not really like a great base coating brush, but their size 3 is like more what I would use for like base coating. Even though like a size 3, I would normally think like, no, that is way too big. That's for like base coating terrain. But I really do like their brushes now that I'm kind of getting used to them. So yeah, Game Envy. They do these brushes. They also do the hobby holder that I'm using. So check them out if you haven't. I think they're doing a Kickstarter right now for like some kind of wet palette system. I haven't really looked into it because I guess I'm just not really that into like doing a Kickstarter right now. I mean, whatever they put out, I'll take a look at it when it's available. But let's see. So Jay, yeah, I did that too for the Lucky Emissary. It's in 3 pieces after assembly, 1 pole with Emissary and Gremlin Lore, and the wheel with Pig. Let's see. So Winsor Newton size 2 is the largest I go for minis. Yeah, I think the largest I go with minis as far as like standard artist brushes, it's typically a size 1. That's like the biggest I go. But yeah, the Lucky Emissary, I haven't really picked that model up, mainly because like I was saying, I have a proxy for it, which is actually my Pigapult model. So originally when I built the Pigapult, I thought it looked a little too small. This was back when in second edition, when the Pigapult was like really, really OP. So I ended up wanting to make like a really, really like ornate looking Pigapult. So I basically gave it wheels. So I pretty much built it like a wooden chassis with like some like metal wheels, kind of like it's like railroad wheels, and I actually put it on like a railroad track, so that it was like the gremlins are actually like running this Pigapult like on the rails. So you got this like Pigapult that's mounted on the rails. It's it's got like a wooden spoiler. It's got like it's got like truck nuts on it. It's just like it's got exhaust pipes, despite the fact that like big exhaust pipes, despite the fact that it's clearly not running on any kind of fuel. So very, very orc inspired in a sense, but really it's just very, very gremlin aesthetic. So I really enjoyed putting together that. And since it just kind of fits thematically, I did that before the Lucky Emissary came out as a model. And when it came out, I just used the Pigapult to proxy it. It fits it nicely thematically, because it's just like a big thing on wheels that runs people over. So one day I may get around to actually painting a separate Lucky Emissary, but for now, I think my Pigapult will serve as a decent proxy. It's it's like 100% Wyrd parts. Other than that, it's just like some like coffee stirrers, plastic straws. I think some like old chariot wheels from like an old like GW kit or something. So so it's very fun. I always like seeing what kind of interesting proxies people can muster. I know Doug was showing off his Douglas Bowman, Serena Bowman proxy, which if you haven't seen that, like seriously watch the VOD on Doug's stream and check it out just to see that. It's amazing, and the likeness is kind of disturbing. See, I think we got a like also. Hey, thanks for the like, Brenda. Wherever you are, I humbly thank you. All right. To be fair, I have a disturbing visage. Well, you know what, actually, Doug, I was thinking, since you kind of wanted to alter the card to have your face in it, you should alter the names of some of her abilities to basically match your personality as well. I'm not super familiar with Serena Bowman's card, so I'm not sure what her abilities are like right off the top of my head, but that would be a fun exercise. All right, let's see. All right, so we're doing that mix of some Mephiston red with a little bit of bloody red from Vallejo Game Color. And we'll just be doing a little more of that, just kind of get some of these high folds here. These are very, very tiny folds on her sleeves. So definitely want to be sure, especially on the top area here, just kind of use the side of that brush. Let's see, front of the card, Feed on Fear, Disguised, and Demise Eternal. All right, okay. So I think just this, some of these folds in her back, I'm gonna hit those real quick, and then I think we'll kick it up a notch. We're gonna add some more bloody red to the Mephiston red and use that to just kind of work up further. But yeah, I don't know if Craig, if you're still in the chat, feel free to let me know. Is Third Floor Wars going to have any more pool party streams? Because I really enjoyed the last one. I enjoyed the Reser one too, begrudgingly. I did enjoy the Reser one because it gave me some important tactical info on how to find how to defeat those damn dirty Resers. But no, I really enjoy those pool parties. I'd wonder, are you planning on doing any more in the future? I honestly didn't expect to see a Bayou pool party coming out of the pipe, actually, just because well, as a Bayou player myself, I don't feel Bayou is particularly popular sometimes, but if nothing else, I think their unpopularity makes it desirable to have a pool party so people know how to combat their tech. So if you happen to have no idea what I'm talking about, Third Floor Wars, they did a couple of streams, a Reser pool party and the Bayou pool party, where they pretty much generated some scheme pools, and they had two players come on and pretty much rank the masters more so just based on where they would put them on those scheme pools. So, for example, you had like a certain scheme pool with a strategy and 5 schemes, and they would say, who is the best master that you would ideally put on that pool? So they did kind of a bit in reverse, as opposed to, they basically just looked at the pools and decided who's the best master for that, to kind of paint a certain picture of the overall faction in that sense. So it's a really cool concept. So definitely give that a look, especially if you're a Reser player, a Bayou player, or someone who hates playing against Resers or Bayou. I definitely put myself in 2 of those camps. All right, so let me mix up some more of that bloody red. Actually, I got it on the palette, so. All right, so I'm just adding more bloody red to the Mephiston mix that I had. Gusalado, I enjoy to make my own realities. So what you're saying is you reject my reality and substitute your own. All right. So we got a bit more vibrant here. A little more of that bloody red. The bloody red is definitely much more orangey in color. It's much more saturated than the Mephiston red. So we're going to make sure that we are just hitting some of those points that we just want to stand out. So just kind of trying to hit the very tops of some of those folds. Obviously not going all the way under her arms, but I do want to hit these areas here. And we're going to do, more highlights. So I'm not too afraid to just kind of, hit some of these areas, because obviously we're going to do something brighter on top. So just as long as we're not getting too far into like the recesses, kind of in some ways get into some of these edges as well. Just so we're making sure that the details pop. Because this model in particular has a lot of like narrow folds on her jacket. And so I always want to make sure, just kind of hit those up. And try to use, I try to use the side of my brush. Not like the literal side, but like the side of that tip. But yeah. So Samantha Thrace, I believe she's coming out this month. if she's not out already for the other side. And I think, yeah, I think so. I think some hype for the other side has been, has been appropriately generated. We got the starter box coming out in November, which I'm looking forward to picking that up. If you're watching earlier today, I believe Ben was painting some Karkaroy from the Gibbering Hordes faction, or Allegiance, I should say. And you can never go wrong with fishmen, fish people, fish beings. I'm always a fan. And of course, we got 2 new factions coming out for the other side, so a lot to get excited about with the other side. So feel free to let me know if you're looking to start the other side. Yeah, what allegiances are you looking to pick up? And if so, like, what attracts you to those? Whoop. Okay, gotta be a little careful on this large area. I think maybe the paint might be a little too thin. So on these larger areas, it's kind of pooling a little bit in some areas. So with that, I'm just kind of being careful not to draw my brush back over it and just kind of let that dry. All right. So interestingly enough, like, I'm a very detail-oriented person, especially when it comes to painting. So I tend to actually find that, like, a lot of these like little folds and details, I tend to enjoy those a lot more than like these large open areas, because obviously with miniature painting, you want to create areas of contrast. And it's a little more challenging to do those on like large flat areas. You got to be very methodical with layering to do that. Well, it doesn't have to be layering. That's usually the technique that I typically use. Let's see, Fat Crow asking, do you ever use anything other than a brush? Yes, actually. Aside from a brush, I do occasionally use an airbrush for certain things. I have used an airbrush to, not usually for Malifaux models, but I will often use it to put down some highlights. I'll usually base coat the model, then lay some like progressive highlights on the model. And then once those highlights are built up, usually use the airbrush, put some shadows back into the recesses of those. And then after that, I'll use a brush to clean it up, basically. So the airbrush is definitely a tool that I use from time to time, mainly for things that require like batch painting. So not really something I use for a lot of Malifaux. Something I probably will use for some other side, since I plan on building a King's Army force. And I think that using that to kind of paint up some of those like riflemen and dragoons and such would be kind of a nice way to kind of get things done quicker. And other things I do use as well, occasionally I do use pens. So specifically, from time to time, and this is pretty rare, I will use Micron pens to paint small details. So one example would be, and it depends on how big the eyes are. Usually for eyes, I just use a brush. Sometimes if the eyeballs are big enough, I'll use a Micron pen, usually the smallest size that I can find, which is like 0.005. I don't remember what I think it's like, I want to say it's 2 millimeter is the size on that. But I just know it as 0.005. I've done illustration before, so I've just had those Micron pens just around like for years and years and years. So, oh, hold on a second, Jay, you've got a dad joke for me. All right, yeah, lay it on there. Unless I already saw it. Well, if I already saw it, it might be new to someone else in the chat. So Let me have it, because you know what? I think it is dad joke time as well. So I will put one out there as well, which I think I've probably told on like every single stream at this point, but we'll see if people pick up. But yeah, so Micron pens, I use those very rarely if eyeballs are big enough. Otherwise, what I have used those for are to draw dice pips. Because there are some models of Malifaux, like the Lucky Effigy, that has a lot of dice on his model. I've used Micron pens to put the dots on those dice. And right now, I'm painting a Victoria's keyword, a mercenary keyword crew. And I'm basing them with a casino theme. And so part of that, I've created a bunch of like playing cards. I just like cut out little thin sheets of plastic card and made little playing cards. Okay, Guslados, yeah, clarifying the 0.05 microns are 0.2 millimeter, not 2 millimeter, 0.2 millimeter. So yeah, that's the smallest size that they make. And I tend to find for eyes, it's usually too big unless the eyeballs are huge. Which, you know, happens from time to time, usually not for Malifaux models. So usually I will end up just using the brush to paint the eyeballs. But like I was saying, what I was using the Micron pens to do was to make playing cards. So I basically cut out like these small sheets of plastic card, and you know I just kind of try to cut them to a standard size, and then I'll use the Micron pens. I was painting these before, but it was taking way too long. So I ended up using Micron pens, and it gets the job done way faster because they come in different colors. So you get a red, you get a black. It's much easier to draw like the little cards as well. Let's see, Jay Mori. Okay, here is the dad joke. What is the Arcanist's chef's union's signature dish? The Arcanist's chef's union's signature dish. I don't know. Let's see. Karis Jubilee or Terror MNSU? So I'm gonna be honest, I don't get the Karis Jubilee, but the Terror MNSU, I'm like, oh. Okay. I didn't quite get the first part. Oh, cherry. Oh, cherry. Okay, okay. Cherry's Jubilee. Okay, got it, got it. I am I don't have a terribly sophisticated palate when it comes to desserts, I suppose. I think the most sophisticated I get are alfajores. All right. But on that note, and in light of the fact that I am painting a Victoria crew, okay, here's a dad joke. I think a bunch of you have already heard this, so you know we'll let those in the chat who haven't heard this. But how does a non-binary Ronin kill people? Let's see. Well, we let that set there. Fatcrow says Micron has a 003 out there. If you try hard and believe in yourself, but I find they have quality control issues below their size too. That's kind of a shame, but interesting to know that. Yeah, I've definitely never seen an 003 in any art supply stores that I've gone to. So I'm interested to know where, you know, where you can find one. But like you said, quality control issues below that. I can see that. I also noticed that they do make some colored pens as well. So like I was saying, I did pick up like a red and a blue and a yellow. Although weirdly enough, I cannot find a yellow in a size smaller than 05. But I don't think I need one because the yellow is really just to draw like, it's really just to color in like crowns and certain parts of like playing cards that would pop as yellow. So it doesn't need to be, you know, that bad. All right, so like I was saying, so how does a non-binary Ronin kill people? They/them. All right, and with that, I think we're ready to move up to another layer. So let's see. Do I want to go up to a pure? Yeah, I'm going to go up to a pure bloody red at this point. Interestingly enough, red is one of my favorite colors to paint, and I think it's just because there's so much versatility to it. Like, I understand that for a lot of people, it's a very frustrating color to paint. But what I like about red is that there is just there's so many ways to paint it, so to speak. And when I say it's so many ways to paint it, I mean, so if you look at like say, like different paint lines, like if you look at say like GW, their paint line, if you're going to be painting red with their recommended triads, they would have something like say, Mephiston red, and like your I think Evil Sun Scarlet, and then like Wild Rider red, and that's kind of your triad to paint red. Pretty much, it's just adding a little more orange into the red as you go up. And they would, of course, just have you shade everything with a red wash. But when you kind of get into red and kind of understand how it interacts with the colors, you can shade it with a dark red. That's for, you can surely do that. But like we did with Samantha Thrace, you can also shade it with purple, which I find gets a really, really nice result. It creates some really interesting contrast. Alternatively, instead of just highlighting it with orange, which again, orange is basically just red and yellow mixed together. There are a lot of yellows that you can use to highlight red. So I find it to be a very versatile color. I think how I ended up just really liking red is since I was playing Bayou for so long. I think I kind of got into a bit of a habit of, well, I want to make sure, I want to use complementary colors. And so since my gremlins would have green skin, I would frequently go with, well, let me give them like red shirts, or let me put some red into this. So I end up putting like, just painting a lot of red. And then after a while, I realized this red is kind of boring. Let me try to figure out some different ways to paint red so it's, it looks different. And so I think that kind of came about, kind of from wanting to sort of like break a habit, so to speak. Yeah, let me know in the chat if you have any colors that you specifically like to paint a lot. For me, it's red. I definitely really like it, although I've, since I am moving into other factions and I'm trying to kind of like diversify my color schemes, I'm trying to kind of get into using some colors that maybe I wasn't quite as comfortable with before. So one of those being blue, especially. I don't think I'd really painted a lot of blue outside of a certain chromatically themed line from another company that will not be named. But yeah, other than that, I didn't really use a lot of blue. Let's see, teals and pinks and purples for me, says Play Weird. Yeah, teal is such a nice color. It's a color that I do tend to find a little challenging. But when I use it, I really do love it. I painted my first mate in my zip crew with teal skin, and I really love. I mean, I love him. I love that model so much. One, just because it's a great freaking model. Even post nerf, first mate is just such a killer model. I also just love the model itself. Divorced from gameplay, and that it's just I just love this fish man with a sea captain's get up, hauling a giant anchor. And yeah, I liked him enough that he's pretty much my avatar in most of my social media. Because I just ended up taking this one picture of him that just looked so damn good. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's the one. That's the one. So the teal came out really nice for the first mate. Other than that, I don't think I've used a ton of teal. All right. So again, we're just using a pure bloody red highlight at this point. Let's see, Fat Crow, I'm fond of burgundy, as you know what I do, but I'm really trying to get my brains on greens. Exorcism, the muted mixes. Yeah, green is another color I really like, obviously because I paint a lot of Bayou. But again, like, I think with Bayou, sometimes you get like really used to painting. Especially, yeah, I was wondering what exorcism was a typo for. Got to exercise the bad paints. Exercise the bad habits. Let's see, Guslado, I paint a lot of reds and purples on my Malifaux models. I have noticed that you do paint a lot of purple. And your purple looks very nice, especially, I don't know if you painted this on the Play Wyrd stream, but Doug did a really good Bandersnatch that had kind of a nice little like sort of color shift thing going on, where it kind of transitions from like kind of a teal to a purple. Fat Crow, only have one hand. I'm curing. Oh no! Did you hurt your hand? Well, if you injured your hand, I hope it's getting better soon. All right. Yeah, like painting Bayou, I think I painted a lot of green, but it was kind of the same green over and over again. That I just kind of, I found a mix for the skin tone that I just liked and stuck with it. Let's see, Guslado, I'm glad you like my Bandersnatch. I painted that on my own stream. Yeah. Let's see, Fat Crow. Nope, I'm doing my. I'm okay. Okay, well, I mean, if you're doing your nails, I mean, that's still painting. So, I mean, hell, right now, if you look at my thumbnail, I'm doing my nails too right now too. There's always kind of a joke I kind of tend to think, which is there's this old Simpsons episode where Lisa is having like a ton of anxiety about what she wants to do when she grows up, and at one point she goes to a museum to try and find inspiration, and so she goes in the paleontology wing and she thinks, I could be a paleontologist, and then like there's a guy, there's like a paleontologist there who's just like, don't do it, little girl. I've spent my entire life brushing the teeth of dead monsters. And he's just there like cleaning the teeth of the dinosaurs. So sometimes I tend to just kind of think of that when I'm like miniature painting, especially when I'm like doing gremlins and I'm like painting their nails, whatever color I'm painting them, and I just think like, I've spent 10 years doing manicures for doing manicures for monsters. Let's see, Jay Mori. I really like to do a bunch of flesh colors, done a bunch of zombies and pigs from Bayou. So when you paint your zombies, and this is something I like to ask, what kind of a color do you tend to go for with zombie flesh? Because there's so many ways you can go with it. You can kind of give them like a flesh tone. You can kind of give them, something more pinkish, something more greenish. You can kind of sort of go off the rails with zombie flesh. So I do think that, I think that's why why there's so many zombie minis, and two, why I think, zombie minis are pretty fun to paint. I mean, not that I would paint any zombies. I mean, what do you think? I'm some kind of reser or something? Yeah, no way, dude. Okay. All right, let's see. All right, Doug. Well, thank you for joining me, and I hope you have a lovely dinner. Hope you drink that hope you have that with some Moscato. Wink. In jokes. All right. Okay, so I think that's pretty good. Let's now kick it up again. I'm going to add some Wild Rider Red from GW into the mix. How do I get that into focus? But either way, just trust me. It's Wild Rider Red. It's a pretty saturated orange color. So I know that for all I was saying before, like, oh, you can do so many things with red. I mean, I am kind of doing, sort of the basic GW kind of approach to it, although just with a different shading technique. All right. Yeah, the Bloody Red from Vallejo, it's quite thin for a game color paint. Relatively speaking, of course. Let's see. Jay is saying, so easiest way to explain is a lot of Bugman's Glow as a base, then Cadian Flesh Tone, then a lot of almost beigey color. Okay. So definitely going for more like, definitely going for more of like a ruddy zombie skin tone. Less like, bloated or drowned or pale or anything. A little more like a ruddy, like freshly dead corpse is kind of the impression I get from that. Okay. There's a very fun reference piece. This meme has been online, for quite a while, but I see it pop up frequently on like Instagram, it's this diagram. It's originally a diagram from like a medical book that shows a hand, and on each finger it details one of the different stages of decomposition. And people have, of course, done it as a sculpture, also as like a needlepoint and such. But I find that a reference like that can be very interesting to kind of work on different painting different kinds of like zombies and such. Which, when I kind of think about it, like as far as like Malifaux is concerned, let's see. Oh, I painted stuff or flying piglets. I think that's the closest to like true undead that I've painted in Malifaux. Oh, I did paint some little gassers as well for a commission. Let's see. Freshies with blood effects and dirt. Ah, nice. Yeah, feel free to let me know what blood effects you like to use the most. I will admit, I do think that GW's technical paints are pretty good. I do like their Blood for the Blood God, mainly just because I like the way it dries. It tends to dry more of a, like a brown as opposed to like a bright saturated red. So I really do like that. I tend to use that for my blood effects. And that's something I tend to use my airbrush for if I want to do blood spatter. Although you could probably do it, you don't need an airbrush to do the technique. It's just a technique where you get some of that paint, you put it on a brush, and then you just hold your paintbrush in front of your airbrush, give it a little puff, and when it shoots the air through the brush bristles, it kind of spatters the blood in a nice little like blood spatter effect. So that's a technique I tend to use for creating blood spatter. I'm using it. I've used it on a couple models I painted, most notably like McTavish, Georgian Olaf, and for my Victoria crew, I've used quite a bit of that on one of the Desperate Mercs, and I'm going to use some more of it on the Ronin that I'm painting. Let's see, Jay. By the way, am I in Discord? DM me. I can show you zombie pictures if I want. Absolutely, I am on Discord. I don't have my own designated server, but yeah, feel free to my Twitch is just salty Cbass with an underscore in the middle. So if you want to just kind of send me a message through Discord, or send me a message through or not through Discord, through Twitch, or through my Instagram, which is also just salty underscore Cbass. That's usually the best way to get in touch with me. Is typically DM and Instagram, or a message through Twitch. All right, let's see how that's looking. All right, not too bad. All right, let's see what we got here. Yep, that is the one thing sometimes about like chatting up is sometimes I'll just kind of lose track of like, oh wait, hold on, wait, did I highlight that part? But the good thing is paint is paint, you know. You can always just put on some more layers. Or you can always kind of dial things back a little bit, reapply shadows. You know, it's a very fluid process. Or at least it should be, because if it's not a fluid process, then you know you might not be thinning your paints enough. Alrighty. Gonna be a little risky here and just kind of paint another highlight down here. Thin one there. Okay. All right. Okay, so now let's kick it up another notch. I'm just going to put some more Wild Rider Red into that. So we're going to work our way up to a pure Wild Rider Red highlight, and then at that point, we might just call it quits on the jacket, or I might go for some ice yellow if I want to kind of make the highlights a little starker. But to be honest, I think the Wild Rider Red might be enough. Then again, a couple of like little like edge highlights here and there with the yellow might be nice, just on the very, very tops of things to kind of make them stand out a bit. But as is, you know, I think her jacket looks pretty good. And I can always do a little bit of correction here and there. So yeah, feel free to let me know in the chat what you're most excited about as far as any of the new master titles. So at this point, you know, they're not really a secret. So feel free to let me know which new master are you most excited about trying out. I know I say like new masters, but I mean, you know, they're not technically new masters, but like that's what it feels like. It feels like we're getting a bunch of new masters, which I really appreciate. What Wyrd has done with the new Malifaux Burns book. I mean, usually when you put out a Burn book, you know, it's not received so positively. So you know, so I appreciate what Wyrd has done with the new book. Yeah, let me know if there are which masters, if any, you're excited about. I would hope you're excited about some. For me personally, I am most excited about the new Wong. You know, people who have long followed me will know that Wong was probably one of my favorite masters in second edition, and I don't know, in third edition he kind of lost me a bit, but I do like the new title for Wong, the Enchanter. And I think it's kind of a nice like back to basics. He loses his you know, his ability to just drop scheme markers from across the board, which is okay. And in doing that, though, he gains much more like, you know, control over, like he's much more offensive. He has a lot of really great like blasts. He's a blaster master again, but he still has a lot of great scheme manipulation. Especially he can transform scheme markers into stuffed piglets, and he can just kind of like you know, just change markers around. So he still has a really nice scheme manipulation game. You know, he blows stuff up real good. And he still has those interactions with his crew, being able to hand out glowy and make them fast and such. So I'm very excited to try out Wong again after a bit of a hiatus. All right. Okay. All right, so yeah, I think I'm gonna have to clean that up at some point. Kind of paint some of the shadows back into that one a little bit. That little fold on her coat. But now we'll work our way up. We're at a pure Wild Rider Red highlight. And something I try to do when I'm doing this is, I mean, we are using the wet palette, so that definitely helps. But I try to make sure that when I am moving to a new layer, I try to start at where I started the previous layer, so that the paint on that area is hopefully dry, as opposed to immediately starting on an area that I was previously working on. Granted, I try to do that. I might, fudge on that from time to time, but I try to do that as a best practice, mainly just so the paint is dry and I'm not potentially tearing paint off. However, the wet palette helps in just kind of making sure that the it helps extend the drying time of your paint a little bit. As a result of that, though, your paints are still kind of thin, so you can kind of blend them a little bit. So wet palette helps, but either way, once I'm done kind of laying down, a layer, I try to just kind of go back to the previous one. So here we end frame. Okay, there we go. But yeah, so like I was saying before, I'm working on these casino bases for my Victorias. And I ended up making some playing cards. That's the other thing I use the Micron pens for, is making those playing cards. Also for doing things like, there's a lot of other little elements I want to make for that, including poker chips, also like a roulette wheel and such. So I might be, just kind of using those pens here and there, just kind of put fine details on things. And yeah, so Micron pens, yeah, that's pretty much, I think, the holy trinity, I suppose, is brush, airbrush, and fine tip ink pens. I'm trying to think if there are any other non-brush tools that I use to do painting. But I think that's about it. I mean, occasionally, okay, sponges, if I'm doing something like terrain or something where I want to do a lot of weathering, like if it's a construct or a mech that has like a lot of corrosion on them, I might use, like a sponge to potentially just kind of, just kind of do like some just kind of, literally just sponge the paint on to kind of smudge things, make it look kind of messy and dirty. But aside from that, can't really think of anything else. Let me know in the chat if you have any other unorthodox tools you might use, or, I mean, a sponge isn't unorthodox, but any other non-brush tools that you use. Oh, I do know some folks do use pencils, actually, like just graphite pencils, particularly for laying out sketches to do freehand. I have not done that myself. For a good example of that, I believe Doug has done that on, I want to say Doug has done that on his, Doug has just done a lot of stuff on his stream. But yeah, I think Doug has done that on his stream. But some folks will use a graphite pencil to lay out like kind of a rough sketch, very lightly put that rough sketch on the model, so that then when it comes time to actually paint the freehand design, you have a good idea of, where you're going to put it. I tend not to do that, but I think I'm going to start trying that. It's just I haven't really had a lot of I haven't had a ton of like freehand that I've wanted to make look neat. Usually a lot of my freehand is on like my Bayou stuff. And usually it's just like messy scrawled etched letters or crude drawings and graffiti that the gremlins make. So I tend to not be too concerned about it. But, from time to time. I mean, again, like I said, now I think about it, like I've been doing those playing cards. And I guess an example of freehand might be things like plaid, which I have done a bit of plaid on some of my Bayou models and also on my my Victorias as well. Okay. All right. So I think she's looking pretty good with the jacket. So, all right. Here's the debate. Do I want to try some ice yellow? The great debate on whether or not I use some ice yellow to highlight further points of this jacket. I think something I might do is I might just see how it looks on some areas. Just give her a little bit of a point of light on some of these parts. Okay. Okay, so I think I'm going to try that a little bit, but I'm going to put it on literally on just a few areas. I'm just going to put it on her elbows and possibly on some areas around her lapel. I'd like to imagine that like the light source would be coming from the front here. So we'll kind of have some areas here. So I feel like putting a little too much on, especially on some of those like large areas, might look a little odd. But getting a few right there, yeah, gives it a very nice effect. Seriously, ice yellow is just one of those magical colors. All right, let's do that on the other arm. This color is also quite thick, so I'm going to want to make sure that I clean my brush in my water at least. I might need to clean my brush soon, just because it's getting a little, I don't know what you would call that. It's getting a little bit of a crooked wick there at the top, a little bent point. All right. Okay. All right, so let's get a little bit on here. All right. Whoops. It actually kind of almost looks a little bit like a bit of OSL. Which has got me thinking a lot about what basing scheme I'm going to want to do for my other side models. I think I kind of want to go with just kind of like a, you know, kind of like a traditional, like sort of like trench works kind of theme for my bases. Okay, I think that one might have been a little much, but we can clean that up later. All right, and let's get a little bit more on her sleeves. And I don't think I'm really going to put any of this on like that large flat area on her coat. All right. Let's just get that right there. All right, nice. All right, I think I am going to put a little bit on her shoulders. All right. Okay, maybe a little on her collar there. A little on that fold, a little bit on that fold. A little bit there. Okay. Okay, so I think that's... I missed a couple spaces there that I think would do with it. Just here on her... around her elbow. All right. Might have to clean up some of those. They got a little too wide, but I think that's a pretty nice little effect. Let's see if I can just kind of get that on camera, and you can kind of see a little bit of how that looks. Let me see if I can get her in focus there. Come on. All right, cool. All right. So I think for now, the coat is pretty much done for the most part. So might do a little cleanup on it later off stream, but for now, I think that's looking pretty good. Now, what I think I want to do is I'm going to work on painting her shirt. So she's got that white shirt. White is another color that I know a lot of people have problems with. It's a color that I kind of, I don't know, I kind of enjoy it in a weird way. I don't know why. So let's see. So the base coat that I used for this white is this color. It's a Vallejo model color. It's pale gray blue. Make sure I've got that centered. Yeah, there we go. So pale gray blue. The number on this is 70.907. So you might want to keep that in mind because like Vallejo, for whatever reason, has, let's see. So in addition to pale gray blue, they've got pale blue. And I believe they've also got dark blue gray, and I believe there is literally one that's called like pale blue gray or pale gray. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, we've got pale blue, blue gray pale, and pale gray blue. So the one that I like to use the most is pale gray blue. As a nice base coat for base color for white. It's got a nice consistency. It thins really well, as well. But that's, again, I've already applied that base coat on the on her shirt. So what I'm going to do is I want to shade that a little bit. So to do that, I'm going to mix a little bit of this pale gray blue. I'm going to make a bit of a, not a wash necessarily, but just kind of thin it down with a couple other colors. So one of which is some GW Rhinoxide. And then I like to mix a little bit of beaten purple from Formula P3 into that mix. And then I try to thin it down and then just kind of very thinly paint it into all the creases and recesses on the white. So let's shake these up. Very good. Yeah, so the Rhinoxide has some purple in it. It's a purplish brown. White is usually never, like pure white. In order to make it show up, you need to have some kind of, interaction of shadow on it. So for a shirt that's very worn or, maybe is sweaty or just, is not going to be like, I don't know, it's not like the Pope's underwear. It's not going to be like, super pearly, sparkly white. I kind of like to mix in a little bit of a brown And I like to mix in a little bit of this beaten purple because it kind of, the pale gray blue kind of has a bit of a, it's got a bluish tinge to it. And the Rhinox hide already has kind of a purplish tinge to it. So I like to mix a little bit of that purple in there. It actually kind of serves to, kind of tie into the color scheme we have with the jacket, which has some purple to shade it as well. But this also just makes like a nice, just kind of a nice shadow color that you can kind of put on white. There's a lot of other ways to paint white as well. Another way I like to do as well is just to paint a very cold white. This is a cold white. When we say like a cold, color or whatever, we're pretty much talking about, how it kind of leans on the spectrum. So pretty much, our cold colors are like green, blue, and our warm colors are like red, yellow, orange, etc. So, a warm white might use, more light colors. It might be a little more beige-ish in some ways. So it will often use like more yellows. Whereas, a cold white will usually use more purples or more blues. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use my number 1 round. And I want to make sure I thin this down a little more. So I'm going to put a drop of water on the wet palette. And let's get that real thin. Thinner, as it were. Yeah, so Halloween is coming up. This is the spooky month. It's the spooky season. I mean, I'm ready. I've gotten my Rotten Harvest boxes, kind of prepped. The Rotten Harvest models are really, really nicely done. My box, I found it was a bit of a hassle to get them prepped, but they're just such gorgeous models. All right, so let me just kind of paint this into the recesses. Again, I can kind of be sloppy with it because we'll just, we can always rebuild that base layer. But I'm pretty much just kind of being very generous with this and just kind of getting it into these shadows and recesses. Here, I'm not too concerned about hitting her belt because, once again, it's already been base coated. So there's no other highlights on it. So, it's not hard to fix that. I do want to be careful around her hair. She's got that little lock of hair there. See, Play Wyrd love the Rotten Harvest boxes. Even my painting skill won't do them justice. Well, you know what? I'm sure, Hey, like you just said, no matter how you paint them, those models look freaking amazing. But either way, I think the most important thing with any paint job is that you're happy with it. Again, I think the big thing is, especially with like miniature painting, because I think miniature painting is definitely a hobby where, a lot of times we get very obsessed with the idea of this thing has to be perfect. And that was actually kind of, for me personally, that served as like a barrier, like a personal barrier for not really getting into this hobby until kind of later in life. Because I was very interested in Dungeons and Dragons. And so from time to time, I would pick up some models from like the local hobby shop. And I thought like, oh, I'm going to paint these models up and they're going to look so good. And then I realized I knew nothing about miniature painting. And I kept thinking like, oh, but what if I paint them and they look bad? And so for years and years and years, I never painted those models. And to this day, actually, I actually still have the first models that I bought. They're just some like metal Reaper models that have not been painted. So that has been kind of like a personal goal of mine, is to just kind of pull those out and just paint them, just so I can, just to kind of close the loop, so to speak, break the cycle. But I think a lot of times, that can just serve as such a great barrier. And so I think for, a lot of folks, you just kind of have to get started, just do it. What eventually got me started with miniature painting later in life was I ended up getting, kind of back into board games. And so I ended up buying this one board game. It was like a miniatures game that just had, it had like 50 or so models in it. And they were like chibi anime models. So they weren't like super complicated or anything. And so I decided, you know what? I'm just going to paint all these. And so I just went ahead and I did it. And something you'll kind of find is after painting like 50 models, you're going to improve your skills. So I think that's actually something I would recommend for people that kind of want to get started in painting is consider getting like a board game that has like a lot of minis, like, and then just paint those. Just paint a bunch of minis, or just just get a bunch of minis you don't even care about that much if you're worried about quote unquote ruining something, and just paint them. The other thing is just that there's just there's so much more information out there now than there was like when I was buying those minis in a like hobby shop. There's so much information out there. There's so much of a community now, which is really great. And really great, happy that I can, kind of share some of my painting with you all out there. So yeah, take advantage of that community, ask people questions, but also try not to be too focused on everything being like perfect. Because I mean, right now painting this model, I've made like a ton of like little mistakes, but it's like, whatever, I can always fix them later. And even so, it's like, if you're looking at it now, it's like, can you really see the mistake? There's a bit of a, I don't know if I'd call this a rule in art. Let's see. Do we get a follow? Hey, thanks for the follow, Witchlight. But yeah, like I was saying, what was I saying? All right, so I'm just building up the building that base coat of the pale gray blue back up. I have to keep looking at the bottle each time because like I'm just gonna say like pale blue, pale gray, pale gray blue, blue gray pale, pale blue, gray, black, blue, white, red. No. And yeah, just rebuilt that. So now you can kind of see we've got this that layer kind of built back up. If I can kind of get her centered on the camera there. Yep. There we go. All right. Yeah, so we kind of got that rebuilt there. So we got that very deep, kind of purple color, that purplish brown that is in the recesses. So let me just kind of hit a second layer real quick on some of these parts. Mainly, I'm just trying to get like her, I don't know what you call that, but that the area of the shirt where you put the buttons in. Not sure what that is called. I'm just going to call it a seam. Kind of hitting that because that's a part that kind of stands out. So since that's going to be higher, I want to make sure that's a little bit brighter. As well as these areas kind of here around her chest that are kind of, sticking out. And some of these like folds that are a little higher. But again, a lot of these folds that are even like just kind of like under her coat, not super concerned about. The ones that are kind of around her back over here, not really all that concerned about too much. And there we go. All right. So what we can do then is once we've got that base layer kind of built back up, let's see, I was talking about practicing painting. Right. Okay. So yeah. So pretty much, yeah, you just kind of, yeah, like I said, if you can paint like 50 minis, you will know so much more from, once you finish that 50th one than you did when you were painting that first one. It really is just about, doing the thing. That's kind of unfortunately the main thing about any kind of art is you just have to keep doing it. Even if you're bad at it or, quote unquote bad at it, or if you don't like what it is, you just, keep working at it. There's also another saying, I think this gets thrown around a lot on like social media. Oh, and just for while I'm gabbing here, we're going to mix the pale gray blue with a little bit of Vallejo off-white. And that's going to be our first highlight color for the white. I got to shake up the off-white a little bit because it's very thick. All right. But yeah, the saying I was thinking of was, yeah, there is a saying that says, people often don't like their own art because they want it to resemble other people's art because they're always trying to make it someone else's. But the fact of the matter is that, it doesn't look that way because it's uniquely yours. It looks like your art. And I think that at a certain point, people need to kind of accept that, it looks different because it's yours, and likewise, someone else can look at your art and say, I wish I could make it look like that. So I think a big part of that is practicing, learning, just, obviously, add new techniques and things. Technique is obviously, very important. But at the end of the day, it's pretty much just all about practicing the fundamentals and just doing the thing. Just keep doing it. And I think eventually you kind of get to a point where you sort of just kind of accept, like, oh yeah, this is my art. This is my style. This is, this is what it is. And, I think when you kind of get to that point, that's kind of a great moment of clarity, I would think. Which I think I think a lot of people, it takes them their entire lives to kind of reach that sort of point. So yeah, just paint the way you want to paint what you want to paint, and don't be like, if you want to push yourself further, which, admittedly, I do that quite a bit, just, do that, push, strive, but never lose sight of just, making sure that making art makes you happy or brings you some kind of joy. All right, let's see there. Yeah. So anyway, we got from Halloween onto that. But yeah, the Rotten Harvest boxes look really nice. I especially really like I actually really like the, because truth is, I already have a Zoraida box, but the new Zoraida box, I think I got it mainly for like the kettle and the Witch of the Woods, specifically the one that's like sitting in the tree with the giant like tree branch kind of going out like a claw. But even just for those two models, just working and prepping those other models, like the sculpts are just all so fantastic. So I really loved all those. I really like the Kinderbaum and the Oberling. Those models are really great. If you're not super into like the diaper fairies or whatever that are usually the will-o-wisps, then I guess maybe that'd be a little more preferable for you. I do really like the one Kinderbaum that is. It took me a while to realize this is what he was doing, but like he's got like the little like wispy like smoke monster demon thing, like kind of turning around and facing him, and he's got his little finger out and he's just kind of booping it on the nose. So I kind of really like that one. I think the sculpts are so whimsical and so great. And yeah, the Bedeviled Kettle was a lot of fun to paint. Yeah, I'm glad it was. That model is just so fun. I just love how creative that model is and just how dynamic and frenetic it is. Because like it's got the chicken legs coming out of it. Like literally it's walking on giant chicken legs. It's got a bat coming out of it. It's got tentacles coming out of it. It's got two tongues. It's got a tentacle tongue. It is holding a spell book. It's holding a maggot. It's just got every possible thing going on. And despite all that chaos, it's just so well, it's just such a great composition of a model. So I'm really hoping I can get around to painting it this month. Before November rolls around, and then I got to start painting Christmas minis, Let's see. Yeah, the Woodclaw Witch is my favorite one too, from Curses, if I'm saying that right. Yeah, I really like that one. I like the other two. I like the Hocus Pocus nod, which I was kind of a little confused at first, and I was like, oh, there's no Sarah Jessica Parker in this set. But then I'm like, that Woodclaw Witch is just too badass. So sorry, Carrie Bradshaw, you're getting bumped. All right. Let's see. Okay. All right. So we're gonna add a little more off-white to that mix. All right. A little more off-white. Oh, crap. Yeah, that was off. The little drop of water that I put in there, I swept it into it. Now, like, the paint is just way too thin. So I'm just going to have to remix that real quick. So let me just, I mean, it's not too difficult. I still have the little dots of off-white and read it again, pale gray blue that I had over there. So let me just add them back together and make a new little swatch there. Yeah, there's such thing as thinning your paints too much, thin your paints, but everything in moderation. But yeah, let me know if you have any good Halloween plans. Let me know if you have any good movie recs, because since a lot of Halloween parties and trick-or-treating, I mean, not that I trick-or-treat anymore, but even taking kids out trick-or-treating and such, now a lot of that stuff is kind of a little, subdued with COVID right now. I like what I did last year. I do love just staying in and just kind of doing movie marathons, or even just, having like a small Halloween party with friends. So let me know what your movie recommendations are. Doesn't have to be new ones. I like old movies, to be honest. I think I really like kind of I kind of like campier horror movies in a way. I like a lot of 80s horror movies. I like a lot of I like a lot of 70s stuff also. Let's see. Chris is saying painting Christmas models doesn't start until Black Friday. Yeah. You know what? You're right. I'm going to hold off until Black Friday. Well, I guess part of that is that like last year for Christmas, I ended up getting I got a Christmas gift for my mother. And one of the things that she really likes is she's really into nativity sets. Not because she's particularly religious, really, but just because she really likes nativity sets. She collects like lots of different types of nativity sets. And so Reaper puts out a pewter metal nativity set. So I ended up getting her, that nativity set, and she loved it. But then she did, at first, she was like, oh, no, don't paint it. It looks really nice. But then she just kind of thought, you know what? Yeah, it'd be really nice if you painted this. So I need to get around to painting that. So I kind of feel like, ooh, I should probably start painting it in November so I get it done in time for Christmas. Because it's like, I had a whole year and quarantine to paint that, but, procrastination me. Let's see. Curses. Night Books on Netflix is really good new Halloween movie for kids and adults. Ravenous is probably my favorite horror movie just for adults. Oh, Ravenous. That's the that's the one that takes place like the 19th century about the cannibalism. I still have not seen that movie, but everyone I know just keeps telling me you need to watch this movie. You would love it. I weirdly remember the TV trailers for that film, which is odd because I think most people just kind of forgot about Ravenous. Okay, you know what? Good rec. I'm gonna go out of my way and just finally watch Ravenous this year. Let's see. What did I watch last year? So last year I had a bit of a movie marathon. Let's see. Night Books is a movie where Kristen Ritter is the witch we never knew we needed. Interesting. All right, so now I'm going to use just the pure off-white. So we tend to work our way up to kind of a pure white. I mean, obviously off-white is not a pure white, but we don't want a pure white on this shirt because, I mean, Thrace has been, she's in battle. The shirt's probably getting soiled. It's getting sweaty. I kind of like that this kind of shading scheme with the highlights gives it kind of a sweaty look. So that's kind of the look I'm going for there. And yeah, it doesn't really require a whole lot. I think we're more or less done with the shirt there. All right. So I think we can move on from the shirt for now. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on painting her pants. So let me get a quick color that I'm going to use to shade that. I'm going to use a Reaper Master Series color. We're going to use Wood Stain Brown. If you just kind of want to know what was the color I used to base that, it is, well, gosh, your guess is as good as mine, but I'm pretty sure that's Shield Brown, if you can read the label. um, let's see. Kristen Ritter is the witch in apartment 23. Oh. Let me see. I'm trying to think. What did I watch last year? That's gonna need a pinprick. So the what was it? My movie marathon that I did last year for Halloween. Let's see. So I started off because it was COVID, and at the time, actually no. I was working at the time, so I didn't have like a total day off, but I think because Halloween was a Saturday last year. Oh man, Halloween on a Saturday and COVID had to be a thing, and just yeah. But anyway, let me get a slightly bigger brush than this to do the shading. I'm gonna grab that number 1 round. All right, so what was I saying? Which light? It is still COVID. It definitely is still COVID. But yeah. And but since last year, it was just kind of it was on a Saturday. So, Halloween was on a Saturday last year, so it was like, ugh, man, COVID. Understatement, I know, but yeah. But either way, I think the film selection I ended up watching was I started out pretty tame. I went with Nightmare Before Christmas because I hadn't actually watched that in probably over a decade. And I was kind of interested to see if it kind of held up for me. It mostly did. Although I think I am kind of more of the opinion that it feels more like a Christmas movie. So I think it's more a movie I like to watch around Christmas than Halloween. I then ended up watching a movie on TV, which was called Hell Night. And is actually like a movie with Linda Blair that was actually pretty fun. It was like a typical college kids are doing like a frat sorority thing where they got to spend the night in this house that's supposedly haunted, except, it's not really haunted. It's, it's being occupied by, the actual people that, did the murders in this house. And so they're getting slowly killed off. It's pretty typical fare for the time. It's very much an 80s slasher movie, but Linda Blair is really good in it. And she also delivers probably one of the best finishers against a slasher movie villain that I think I've ever seen, really. It's a really nice finisher that she uses to kind of finish off the villain. So that alone was actually pretty cool. Aside from that, I ended up watching Night of the Demons, which I'd seen that movie on TV a bunch of times growing up. I'd never seen it I ended up watching it on streaming. And I ended up just kind of seeing that, and it was actually a really great Halloween movie. It's such a great just Halloween movie. Obviously, it is not a family film. But that's a really fun one. Let's see. This year, if you're into Muppets, the Halloween special just came out. Oh, interesting. I'm always down for a Muppet outing, so. Okay. Yeah, always down for a Muppet outing. Yeah, let me know in the chat what your favorite Muppet movie is. For me, I think it's got to be Christmas Carol, just because I mean, I like a good ghost story, and I like a Christmas Carol quite a bit. And I think the Muppet version of Christmas Carol is actually a one of the most solid versions, film versions of a Christmas Carol. All right, so we just kind of threw that wood stain brown just kind of all over her trousers, just kind of getting into the creases. So now we are going to kind of rebuild that. There is this one element here that I have not base coated, which it's this little thing that's kind of strapped on her belt. I can't quite tell what it is. I think it's a dagger hilt, but I'm not quite sure what it is. So whatever it is, I'm just going to kind of get around to painting it later. So let's work on those trousers. Uh-oh. I hope this... Oh, okay. It's not empty. It's just really thick. Let's see. Oh, okay. Okay. Labyrinth. Okay. You know what? If we're going to consider Labyrinth a Muppet movie, then I would have to switch my vote to Labyrinth. I guess when I think of a Muppet, I think specifically of the branded Muppets, but You know what? I'll allow it. I have a friend that is such a big Labyrinth fan that she pretty much knows like the entire movie by heart. And so I remember one time, like a few years ago, we ended up like watching it. Just kind of, it was on Netflix. And we're like, oh, let's watch Labyrinth. And she literally just like as the movie started, she just started reciting all of the lines in unison. And we eventually just had to ask her to stop. It's like, okay, we get it. We get it. It's a little distracting. All right, so we're just using I believe this is Shield Brown. And we're just kind of trying to get in there. If it's Henson, it counts. All right, you know what? I'll allow it. Yeah, I'm trying to think, what else did I watch as part of that marathon? I watched Phantasm, the first Phantasm, which that is a trippy movie. I enjoy that movie a ton just because it's so freaking weird. It is, to me, it's just one of the most 70s horror movies. I also actually, something that's kind of fun about Phantasm is I did not see it until I was well into adulthood. And my first time actually watching it was in a theater. So I actually got to watch the remastered, the like 4K remastered cut in a theater with an introduction and Q&A by the director Don Coscarelli. So I think that was kind of one of the best ways to watch Phantasm, just kind of in a movie of like, or in a theater full of like a bunch of like, Phantasm fans. And just kind of getting like great audience reaction and just kind of just seeing the movie in a really great format. It just, it was a really great experience seeing it. And yeah, I ended up kind of rewatching it again. That's always kind of one that I enjoy quite a bit. I think, okay, kind of a weird connection, I guess, that I've been making that I've just been saying constantly, but the new Ophelia box. Well, I'm calling it the new Ophelia box, but technically it's the new, curses. Phantasm is intensely drugs the movie. Not wrong. Not wrong, man. What was I saying? Yeah, with Phantasm. Yeah, the new Ophelia box, which again, I know it's technically the Ophelia Perdita box with the new Enforcer, but to me, it's the new Ophelia box, which I did purchase from the Gen Con sale. So I'm really looking forward to getting those models done up as well. But yeah, the new Enforcer that Ophelia has, Sly Six Shots. Does anyone else think that he looks like the tall man from Phantasm? Let me know in the chat if you agree with me on that. I totally think he looks like the tall man, which makes me love the model that much more. I already love that model, but he looks to me very much like character actor Angus Scrim, and I enjoy that because that guy had just such like a distinct look to him. He's the kind of guy that I do kind of wonder. I kind of want to look into his IMDb and see if Angus Scrim did any other like significant acting work. I'm sure he did. He probably did. I get the impression he was probably like a theater actor as well. He just has one of those looks to him. But also, he's the tall man in the Phantasm movies, and just like, yeah, he just has one of those looks where it's like this guy was born to play like a weird like like a weird like movie monster. Basically, he's not an ugly man. I'm just saying, like, he just has that intense look where it's like, yeah, he looks like he's playing like some kind of weird like interdimensional demonic extraterrestrial transdimensional Undertaker. I think that's what he is. Yes. Okay, so Curtis agrees with me a little bit. He kind of does. Let's see. Henrik 2020. Hello from Miniature Painter in cold Norway. Oh, well, thank you for coming on in. Hopefully you can sit down a little bit, warm yourself by the fire. We are just painting up Samantha Thrace. So welcome, Henrik. So just joining us in, we're working on painting up Samantha Thrace from Wyrd Miniatures, The Other Side, one of the new champion models for the Guild Syndicate. Yeah, so just kind of rebuilding the highlight layer, or not the highlight layer really, but the base coat layer on her pants. Admittedly, a little harder than I thought it would be, actually. But it's looking okay. Thanks. Never heard of that miniature before. Yep. Well, yeah, so she is, I don't think she's technically released yet. So I managed to get Wyrd was nice enough to send me an advanced copy of Samantha Thrace, along with the other new champion model, Bin Wen, who's currently, been primed and is ready to be painted eventually. But yeah, she's part of the other side, which is Wyrd's kind of like army tactical miniatures game. So if you like a game that has like a lot of strategy, but is also like pretty quick to play, the other side is pretty solid. It's card based instead of dice based. So like the our main game, Malifaux. But yeah, so if you haven't heard of either, I definitely encourage you to look into them. Wyrd makes a lot of really, really nice sculpts. And, some equally very, very nicely, statted out and ruled tactical games. So we were also talking about, we were talking about Halloween and movies. Let's see. Yeah, we were talking about, Phantasm. And I'm trying to think. There was one. Oh, okay. Yeah. The other one I watched, Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. So I know that Texas Chainsaw is definitely a bit of a darling amongst a lot of like horror fans. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, I've heard, is kind of very polarizing. I have kind of mixed feelings about that movie. I like the first like half of it, or not even the first half. I like the first third, and then I like the last like 10 minutes, but like that movie to me has a really soggy middle. I'm not really a big fan of like, as soon as you kind of get into like the amusement park or whatever, I just kind of feel like the movie just kind of slows down to me, and it just becomes like, it just kind of becomes annoying. But then once Dennis Hopper shows up with those chainsaws, it's like, okay, I'm back into this. So I like it overall, but soggy middle. I'm not a big fan of the middle of that movie. Okay. All right. So let's, whoop, am I not on frame? Let's see. It's Malifaux. Not so big here in Norway. Oh, okay. Well, I can understand that. Yeah, it is kind of hard, when if there's no meta. One good thing about Malifaux, though, is that it does have a lot of online support. So Vassal is definitely a really good way to kind of, potentially get sort of introduced to the game without having to like commit a lot of money. Well, not a lot of money. The crews are thankfully pretty cheap, but without having to commit like a bunch of money to like buying a new faction. So if you heard of Vassal, it's pretty much just like an online module to play like tactical games. The Malifaux Vassal community is huge, and it's really been very helpful, I would say, in just kind of keeping Malifaux alive really during COVID, when people can't really get together and meet in person. So I definitely recommend, like, if you're kind of wary of it, I would totally look into the rules a little bit and maybe check out Vassal. Because the nice thing with Vassal is you can just literally play with any of the crews, get kind of a sense of what crew you might like, or if you even like the game, and from there you can kind of move on from there. So that'd be my big recommendation. And you know what, if there's just not much of a meta where you live, hey, you could always just stay on Vassal. But that's my 2 cents. Let's see, curses. Oh god, Texas Chainsaw 2 is so good. It's like Power Rangers with murder. It's so stupid. I mean, you're not wrong. Let's see. I actually digitally restored the Turkish painted poster of Texas 2 for a birthday gift to a friend. Oh, that sounds awesome. I love international movie posters. I especially love like Turkish and Japanese movie posters. Let's see. Henrik says, "Ooh, just checked Weird Store and some cool figurine called the King's Hand." Ah, well, the King's Hand is from the other side, which is the a model that which is the game that this model is a part of as well. So yeah, the King's Hand. It's part of the King's Empire Allegiance, which is the allegiance that I'm looking to get started in. Although this particular model is a syndicate model, so she can basically support any of the Earthside allegiances. But yeah, no, definitely. Another nice thing about the other side is that the models come pre-assembled, and they're actually, like the pre-assembled other side models are of really good quality. Like pre-assembled models can sometimes be a bit of a crapshoot, but like I've generally found that the other side models are really good quality. They don't have a ton of like annoying mold lines. There's might be some different material, like the first run stuff. I really like the material on it. The newer stuff, the material's fine. I just noticed that it takes a little more work to kind of prep it if you want to, make sure all the mold lines are off. But yeah, no, really nicely put together, like, pre-assembled minis. So, it also kind of saves you a little time. Really like mechs. Which army is the best in that case? If that's the case, mechs. Let's see. I would say probably King's Army or possibly Abyssinia. Abyssinia has a lot of really cool like constructs as well. The King's Army has the King's Hand, which is that big, mech. Other than that, they do have like the I forget what they're called. I think they're like the South Wales Borderers, who are kind of these dudes in like power suit frames. And aside from that, they do have some other like kind of motorized units and such. But I'd look into Abyssinia also. Abyssinia has some really cool like spider walking things that have like cannons and such. So either of those two factions I think are really good for like if you like your mecha. But yeah, let me see. Yeah, so Texas Chainsaw 2. I overall liked it. I just don't like the middle of it, but yeah, again, once Dennis Hopper shows up, I'm just like I'm back into it. All right. Okay, so that is the coat on her pants. All right, so now let's do a bit of highlighting on that. So I'm kind of just using a triad on this. So we're going to mix the Shield Brown from Reaper with an equally faded Driftwood Brown, also from Reaper. So I'm just going to shake these up. Let's see. The Dreadnought is their massive walker, and it's packing some heat. Yeah, the Dreadnought is really cool. Yeah, Abyssinia is a really cool faction. I tend to kind of think of them kind of like steampunk Wakanda a little bit. Yeah, I think like all the faction like allegiances in Other Side. It's hard for me to make up my mind on them. I think I just kind of ended up going by which was least represented in my meta. So I kind of went with King's Army, mainly just because I do generally love the whole aesthetic. I love their play style as well. And I do love the King's Hand. Just that big mech is really cool. I want to get my hands on it and get it painted up as soon as, as soon as I get my Victorias done, as soon as I get my other crews done, as soon as I get my my nativity set painted. Actually, as far as like nativities go, I remember for something I've wanted to do as a diorama for a long time. Let's see, Matt Stanley. At some point, I'll have to play some TOS. Hey, yeah, you know what, Matt? You really ought to play some TOS. In fact, we ought to get together sometime and play some Other Side, or some Malifaux, or something. All right. Let's see here. All right, so I just mixed some of that driftwood brown with a little bit of shield brown. Just trying to do some just basic highlights on the top facing parts of her thighs. Trying to get some of these creases here as well. Let's see. Gotta go. Was fun hanging out. Well, thank you, Jay, and hopefully I'll see you around next time. Thanks for the conversation, and thanks for sticking around. Yeah, so I think that was pretty much my my movie marathon on last year's Halloween. So yeah, I'm kind of trying to think, what am I going to watch this time around? I mean, I've been kind of watching a few things here and there. I actually today watched part of a like an old it's kind of like an Italian. It was one of these Italian. I wouldn't necessarily classify it as a giallo film. I would just say it was just a low budget Italian horror film. I think it was called what was it? Crypt of the. I want to say it was called Crypt of the Living Dead. And despite what you might think, it's not a zombie movie. It's a vampire film. Which I did kind of enjoy. I thought it had a nice little like kind of like bad end. Let's see, Henrik, I normally follow Haunted Miniature Stream and was recommended to come by here. Oh yeah, Haunted is a great guy. Yeah, I follow his stream quite a bit. His regular stream and him, on Play Wyrd when I'm able to. And yeah, I usually raid his stream when I do mine as well. Just because we both tend to do streams on Saturdays. And so usually kind of, I tend to start like a little before him. So usually I'll just kind of raid into him if he's still streaming by the time I stop. That being the case, I'm thinking of kind of like streaming more on like afternoons. Let's see. That is a lot of games. Let's see. Personally plays Star Wars Legion, Warhammer for AOS. Oh, wow. That is a lot of games. Yeah, I do think that's kind of why I kind of stick more to Malifaux, but I'm getting into the other side. I think is also just because I like how quick it is, and I like how even though it is like an army scale game or whatever, it's still not like nearly to the kind of insane model count that something like a 40K can get to. Whoops, got a little bit into her recess there. Okay. All right. So let me get that. All right. So now we're going to just keep building up that highlight. Love that paint shaking ASMR. Get some driftwood brown. We're going to put like, pretty much when I do this, I kind of more or less just sort of eyeball it like a 2-to-1 ratio. So I usually just raise the ratio up by 1 pretty much when I move to another highlight layer. Let's see. Henrik, my pile of shame is pretty big. To which Witchlight says, it's a pile of potential, friend. Yeah, you know what? That is absolutely correct. Oh, now I remember actually what I was going to say earlier about dioramas. So speaking of like the nativity scene that I was painting for my mother, I was actually considering a while ago wanting to do a diorama for Malifaux, which was actually like a nativity. So I want to do like a Malifaux nativity. My thought being that, baby Cade could play the role of baby Jesus. And I was kind of torn on, I was thinking maybe Lilith as Mary, Pandora clearly as one of the wise men. Like, I think it would be like a Neverborn nativity scene. So it'd be like Lilith, with either baby Cade or like a Terror Tot. Oh, who Joseph could be? Papa Loco. If you believe if that part of the lore is in fact true. Let's see. Henrik, just at the moment, our club here in Norway is moving, so we get a bigger venue to play at, but costs $2,500 per month. Ooh. I'm assuming that's split between all of you, though, right? Yeah, as far as how many minis I have games for, oof, yeah. They're definitely. Well, you know what? I'll say this: Malifaux is the one that I am at least consistently painting things for. Because there are some other games that I do have minis for, but like, you know what? No one's really playing them right now, so I think I can just kind of, focus on what I really, really would like to paint right now. Let's see. That's for the venue for the store and club in a first floor in a big building. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, no, always having like a big venue is always a lot of fun. We do have there's actually a local venue around here. Don't know if I can talk about this publicly. I will not say where it is, but it's a little place called the Historic Haven. And it's called that because, one, its location is a secret. If you go to their website, all that is there is a riddle about where to find them. If you can if you can solve the riddle and find where they're located, then obviously, it still is a paid gaming club, so you have to either pay dues or be invited. But it's in the basement of an old building, and so it just kind of looks like a kind of like a medieval keep a little bit, And it's got secret passages. It's got really ornate places to game, to play D&D. It's got terrain. It's got TVs. It's got just about everything you would want. If I actually lived kind of in that area, I would certainly join. But yeah, so it's kind of a fun little like local kind of local institution that we kind of have as well. All right, Fat Crow. See ya. Hope you have a good meal. Thanks for showing up. And yeah, I'll catch you later. Yep, cool with a riddle. Yeah, the riddle is I have never been able to solve the riddle myself. I have been there, but mainly because they've done some Malifaux tournaments and I was simply invited. So they're just kind of like, yeah, okay, you can come here as long as you're a guest. But great place, great people. And it's got a great atmosphere. It's also where I learned they have a very big collection of like RPG books and such. It's also where I learned about some very, very obscure RPGs. For example, okay, the most obscure RPG I think that I've ever heard of as a result of being there is, and I saw the book for this, is there is an RPG for the film Ghost Dog: Way of the Samurai. If you're unfamiliar with what Ghost Dog: Way of the Samurai is, it is I want to say mid 2000s, early 2000s movie with Forrest Whitaker, in which he basically kind of plays like a guy he sort of becomes like the like he gets very involved with this kind of like samurai like code, and after he is sort of kind of saved, quote unquote, by like this mafia guy, he sort of like becomes his servants, weirdly enough, or he becomes like he makes this guy his master and he becomes like a samurai who like does stuff for this guy. It's a weird movie, but the point is, if you ever wanted to to role play in the world of Ghost Dog: Way of the Samurai, there's an RPG book for that. So I'd recommend it as a film. It's a good film. It's got Forrest Whitaker basically like, kind of pretending to be a samurai and, at certain points, just like wiping out mafia guys. So, it's fun. All right. So now we're going to do, I think, one more highlight, and we're just going to do the Driftwood Brown. So that's a pure highlight. So really, we've made a lot of progress here. The main thing to finish on her, aside from her weapons, obviously, is pretty much all the leather. And just about most of the leather is going to be painted in the same colors. So I don't know if we'll be able to get that started, but if nothing else, we can at least likely get her pants done. Before closing out. Yeah, let me know in the chat if you can think of a more obscure like RPG book than the official. Well, I don't know if this is necessarily called official, but the Ghost Dog Way of the Samurai tabletop RPG. Feel free to let me know. I'd love to know about like weird or obscure RPG books. Let's see. Whispering Vault is the weirdest TTRPG I've ever seen. It's like Videodrome, the game. Huh. Tell me more, Curses. Tell me more. Star Children Velvet Generation. Okay, with a title like that, I love that I'm getting some answers here. This is awesome. I'm going to have to look into these. Whispering Vault. Okay. I feel like I have heard that name, Whispering Vault. But yeah, I've never heard of Star Children. I think like Ziggy Stardust, the RPG. Oh, no, that just sounds amazing. Okay. That's pretty cool. All right, so we're just kind of getting those. Getting those little Stark bits there painted, those little edges. All right. So if like Ziggy Stardust, the RPG, like that actually reminds me, for a while, I've wanted to run a D&D campaign that was kind of like, sort of inspired a little bit by Macross, mainly just more so in just that idea that like in every Macross series, like pop music is like the secret weapon to like, to save the galaxy, and just kind of build it kind of like a Spelljammer campaign kind of around that. All right. Let's see. So yeah, so I think we're kind of starting to wind up a little bit. Yeah, so let me know when we need to so if the mod can just kind of let me know, when we need to wrap up. But you can kind of see my socials there, by which just my main social, which is my Instagram. So yeah, if you want to see more of my work, you can just follow me on Instagram, Salty Cbass. I also do have my own Twitch channel, which is also Salty Cbass. So if you want to, give me a quick follow over there, that'd be great. You can know when you can kind of get notified as to when I broadcast, because my schedule is, I usually try to stream on Saturdays, but, I miss Saturdays now and then. Last Saturday actually was not feeling well because I got my flu shot and it was a little achy afterwards. And, other times, there's just things that got to be done Saturday, but I usually try to stream 8 p.m. I think I'm going to start moving that down to about 5 or 6 p.m. On Saturdays. So feel free to give a follow at either one of those places. All right, got about 5 minutes. Look, I'm keeping my eye on the clock as well. Let's see. Via Wikipedia, players, I'm assuming this is Whispering Vault. Players take on the role of stalkers, persons who act as servants of the guardians of reality, tracking down and apprehending rogue gods who have invaded reality. Oh, that sounds really cool. I'll have to check that out. So, Whispering Vault. Okay. Hey, we got a raid. Raid? Hey, thanks for the raid, Kalini. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I hate to disappoint you, but I think we're going to be wrapping up in about 2 or so minutes. But Since you've come up here, we've been painting Samantha Thrace from The Other Side, which is a Wyrd's, kind of army strategy battle game. Different from Malifaux, whereas Malifaux is, skirmish size. Other Side is a little bit bigger, but Samantha Thrace is one of the new champions for the Guild Syndicate. So yeah, we're just kind of painting her up. This is the progress we've basically made today. Raid timing is impeccable as usual. I know the feeling. But either way, thank you very much for the raid. I appreciate it a whole lot. Again, if you want to see more of this painting, you can check out the Play Wyrd stream. We have a lot of other painters on here other than myself. If you want to see more of my stuff, you can check out my Instagram. It should be down at the bottom there at salty_Cbass. I also have my own Twitch channel. If you want to give me a follow there, you can see other projects that I paint, usually on Saturdays. Best way to find out when is to kind of follow, because my schedule's kind of changing on Saturdays quite a bit. But yeah, so I think we're kind of getting towards the end here. So just want to give a quick shout out to the Play Wyrd stream. Be sure to check out all the other great streamers on Play Wyrd. We got a lot of really great people there. Excuse me. We'll also have their socials as well. So, Ashenhold Painting, Guslado. We've also got Haunted Miniatures, Sybarite Painting, and also, who am I forgetting? Wotek, and also Big Deno Miniatures. And yeah, you can see in the chat tomorrow, Eleanor's going to be painting at 11, followed by Wotek at 3:30. So, always, give them a good watch. And yeah, I think our time here is just about up. So thanks again to everyone for joining me tonight. I'm really happy with the brand new camera. I think we can kind of see a little more of, what I'm actually painting here. So, when I'm on frame. So thanks once again for attending. Thank you for all the love, and I'll see you next time on the other side. Take it easy.